Hey, this is Benjamin Boyce, and I want to share with you an interview with somebody who worked within Pangburn Philosophy. Pangburn Philosophy is the production company that put on the Sam Harris and Jordan Peterson talks, which occurred in June in Vancouver and in July in London and Dublin. And since those events, those huge events that were the talk of the town, as far as the internet is a town, since those events, more and more problems have been happening with Pangburn Philosophy, which culminated in the cancellation of the Day of Reflection, which was to happen in New York this past weekend, leaving a lot of audience members high and dry. It turned out that some of the people who ended up in New York got together on their own and had a little mini conference, which is pretty awesome. And I'll get into that hopefully later. I'll be able to share some of the stories of that event. Anyways, I've been researching Travis Pangburn of Pangburn Philosophy and finding more and more disturbing material that I believe adds up to fraud, or if not fraud, then negligence, and if not negligence, absolute incompetence. I've been lucky to land an interview with David DeGryse, who was an assistant production manager for Pangburn Philosophy. And while I cannot share any primary documents at this time, I believe David's experience with Pangburn Philosophy sheds some much needed light on what was going on with this production company and with this man at the center of the production company.
Hello, world. Travis Pangburn here. Intellectual discourse is important to everyone. We need a way to suss out the good ideas from the bad ideas. A great way to do this is have live discussion and debate.
I want to know why these events are important to put so much time and energy into throwing them and traveling all over the world. Why is it important to you?
Well, we need to change the world. There's a huge need to sway this war of ideas in favor of science and reason. So we need to keep promoting good ideas to drown out the bad ideas. I look forward to promoting large events like this in order to hopefully raise awareness to this huge issue, global issue that we have.
Hi, I'm in Vancouver. I'm at the Chan Center. Some strange things are afoot. Tonight I'll be with Tracy Harris and Sarah Hayter. Last night it was me, Richard Dawkins, and Sam Harris. Travis is here.
What's up?
And somebody's listening. Travis is listening to the live stream as I do it.
That's absurd.
So the production office with our production peeps. Yeah, you're live. Woo! I don't ever want to do shows where they're not working. Just so you know.
How did you get involved in Pangburn Philosophy?
It was mostly through the theater business. I've spent years being a stagehand, working arena shows and theater shows and festivals. And one lady that I've been working for the past 8 years with here in Vancouver, on and off different shows, I know that she's a very good stage manager, and I needed a stage manager for an award show that I was supposed to be working. And I asked her to do that, and I offered to be her assistant stage manager on that. Stage manager basically handles anything that's happening on the stage. So if it's concerts, the stage manager is responsible for gear coming on and getting off, responsible for the stage being set up in the beginning. They hand off responsibilities to lighting people and audio people and instruct everybody on how things go. And then the assistant will come along and make sure that everything is actually being done. And if there's any questions, it goes back to the stage manager to say, this needs to be done. And that turned into me working with her on one of the Pangburn shows, and I wasn't aware of who Pangburn was yet. She asked me to continue being an assistant stage manager.
Okay.
And then that kind of launched. That's where we went from there. My role in the beginning was simple stuff, putting up dressing room signs and making sure the hospitality, which is food for the talent, is set up in the dressing rooms. And when the talent arrived, I would make sure they got to their dressing rooms and just guide them around everywhere they needed to be.
And what was the first big show that you did with Pangburn?
The Celebration of Science and Reason in Hammersmith in London, and that was Sam Harris and Richard Dawkins, Matt Dillahunty. I'd been planning on going to England a couple of months before that. And when I was told that they were doing a show in London, I said, I was going to go to London. They said, well, why don't you come? We'll need to hire an assistant stage manager there. If you're there, we can hire you. I said, yeah. So I got a ticket right away on my own. And that was my first actual show with them.
We're here in London for a celebration of science and reason, and we are so excited to be here.
So if there's a stage manager and then an assistant stage manager, what's Travis Pangburn's role in Pangburn Philosophy?
He considers himself, I guess, the promoter. At times he referred to himself as a producer, a creator, an innovator. I don't think he really settled on one title. He would pick the people he wanted to speak. He would pick a venue he wanted them to speak at. Mm-hmm. And then it was the stage manager's job to make the technical aspect of that happen.
So the stage manager and then other people within Pangburn Philosophy would kind of just deploy Travis's vision.
Yes.
What was your experience of how Travis Pangburn acted in the capacity of a promoter or producer or innovator? A
big part of a promoter, I guess, would be interacting with the talent and acquiring the talent. And he's very charming and very intelligent. Mm-hmm. And the way he approached the speakers and acquired them was great. I mean, he got some amazing people together to do some amazing shows. Mm-hmm. I think as a promoter, though, one of your other functions is marketing. And as far as I know, we didn't have any. He relied on social media, and in particular, he relied on the speakers to do self-promotion. And luckily, a couple of our speakers, being high-end, had a large following, and most of our ticket sales came through the speakers, not through any promotion on the part of our promoter.
That's really interesting because it seems like he had everybody else doing work. You got the big names, you got Sam Harris, you got Jordan Peterson. They're going to draw their own crowd. Then Travis makes some phone calls to get them in the same place at the same date. And then his crew goes in and puts that all together. So Travis is nothing much more than a face.
I'd go a little bit farther on that. At one point, he had our stage manager who became the production manager, who became the director of production, who became the executive director. He was handing out glorified titles to people without real function. By the time we got the office in June, there were only 4 employees, and 3 of them were all directors of something. And then myself, I was functioning as production assistant under the production manager because she was elevated. And then I was given the title of security coordinator because I was handling the book signing after the show, and that somehow gave me the title of security coordinator.
Did he ever delegate responsibility and then get in the way of the person doing their job?
Constantly. Constantly. And yet he'd empower people. Our production manager / director of production, he empowered her to sign on his behalf, and that was either with her signature or doing a cut and paste with his signature. But a lot of the times he had her signing contracts for things. So he took no responsibility there, but even though he empowered her to do that, he would pull back on the reins and tell her to stop doing things. And that devolved all the way down to the technical. When we did the show at the Orpheum on June 23rd, we're in Vancouver. It's in Vancouver. We've worked in that building before, and everybody was familiar that they have problems with the audio equipment in the house. It's older equipment. It's been used for opera, and the microphones in particular aren't in the best condition for a speaking engagement. And I believe our production manager said to him that we need to cross-rent equipment. We need to get equipment in. Most people bring their own equipment in or rent equipment to bring it in. And he said no. And that led to problems with the audio.
Okay. So he wanted to rely on the audio of the house when he was told that it wasn't reliable.
That's my understanding. Okay. I mean, I wasn't part of that conversation, but most people, I've worked in that building before, most people rent the equipment when they come in. So why wouldn't we?
What we typically do when we go into cities is we either have to use the venue recommended audio crew or video crew, or we're able to source one out ourselves. So when we source one out, we always go with the best one available that knows the venue and it's got the best reviews and ratings, or else the venue makes us use their own in-house guys. And unfortunately, sometimes like the quality is shit. Like we could have done better audio capture with like a Zoom unit attached to the console. So we are starting to have some backup plans, but and putting those in place, but the venues sometimes don't even allow us to do the backup plans that we have. So when you're working in the higher level music and concert venues, they have very stringent rules as to what you can and cannot do. So we're always at the mercy of that, but we do our best to try and hire the best people, because just like you guys, I can't fucking stand listening to shitty audio, especially when I'm trying to hear a conversation.
Now that same problem did happen with security where I was
Really?
made the security coordinator. And I was surprised to find out. I was looking at the website and I saw my name in the title, security coordinator. That's how I found out I was the security coordinator.
Okay.
I was told that we were elevating the company. It made the company look stronger having a security coordinator, at which point I said, take my name off the website, please. That makes me a target.
Okay, yeah. That miniature story shows me two things. One, that he's really concerned with the way that something looks. And secondly, it kind of shows some incompetence about how that specific thing works. Is that like
Yes.
a theme through your entire experience with him?
Well, just with the security aspect alone, that continued. I was instructed. I thought, now that I'm security coordinator, I'm going to fulfill that role. I'm going to do a security analysis or an assessment on a venue before going in. I'm going to look at the speakers that are coming in and see if there's any reason that we should have elevated security. In particular, Jordan Peterson, one of the events he was at, not with us, but a prior event, there were apparently 100 and something protesters and windows had been broken. Yeah. And Travis said, we don't need security for Jordan Peterson. I thought, well, that's not necessarily true. If there's protesters, we have to be aware of that. And if there's an expectation of protesters, we should be contacting the police in that city and advising them of the risk.
Yeah. Okay.
That's normally what's done. And Travis told me to stand down, to not be phoning the venue and talking to them about things, and to not be worrying about it, that we don't need security.
Is there a logic behind him restraining you?
Probably cost.
Okay.
He didn't want to. When he said we don't need security, part of his justification is nothing's happened. And I've heard that argument before. If security is doing their job well, and most of that is just being present, if there's a visible presence of security, that eliminates most of the problems. If something's happened, if somebody gets evicted from a concert, or if there's some reason that security is actually being deployed, something's gone wrong. Security hasn't done their job effectively. So the idea that we don't need security because nothing's ever happened is not a logical argument.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
And that's something it seemed to be eluding him. In fact, there was the Kootenai Country Music Festival, which is a Pangburn event.
Hey everybody, it's Kootenai Country Music Festival time.
And I'd suggested, because I'm well known in the country music industry, I've worked a lot of festivals and I know a lot of the artists, that it would be great if I went along and was the assistant stage manager on that, and I could help with security coordination. And he said that we didn't need security for the country music festival. Okay. I asked, is there not going to be a beer garden? It's a legal requirement to have security. He suggested that we would use volunteers for security. You can't use volunteers for security. You have to have licensed security guards. And I asked, what if there has to be a physical eviction? You need somebody licensed. And he suggested that he was the only one authorized to do a physical eviction.
Does he know judo? Or is he trained at all?
He is an actor.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. He's an actor, but that acting falls down as soon as the action needs to happen.
I don't know. I think it continues. I haven't seen that stop yet.
Could you talk about the video, the Sam Harris and Jordan Peterson talks?
Just so you all know, we are filming the event, so it is being documented, and what we do with that content will be decided at a later date. But just so you know, we are documenting this historical event, and I'm just so excited.
There's a couple of difficulties with that. For example, the civic theaters in Vancouver or Dublin or London, you have to get express permission to record video to be used for anything other than archival purposes.
Okay.
And to my knowledge, he never arranged that. I've spoken with the theaters. I spoke with Dublin and London. And that was never arranged in advance. And as far as I know, the only thing that we were doing the video for was for what they call IMAG, the image magnification on the screens up on the stage. Yeah, so that the people up in the top row can see the speakers' faces.
Okay. And was that handled by the house, or was that handled by some crew that you guys hired?
No, we brought in a vendor. We brought in a company, which, oddly enough, they still have not been paid. I think they have a huge outstanding bill for that they've never been paid for.
Oh, the video that he has online right now that's monetized.
Yeah. As far as I know, that was never meant to be released for commercial purposes or anything. That was supposed to be for archive purpose only. That speaks to the quality of the video. It's shot for a live. In fact, I don't think it was ever edited other than being trimmed on a couple of ends. So it's not like it was professionally put together and edited and all that other stuff, which is what he was talking about. He used that as one of the justifications for not releasing it, was that it needed to be edited. There was no editing. In fact, I know that because I'm the one that picked up, I went to the company the day after, or 2 days after, and I picked up the hard drive that had the videos on them.
Were the videos all the different angles in the theater or just the feed?
As far as I know, just 2 separate files of the feed.
Huh. Okay, so there was no editing to do.
No. Yeah, it was hard for me having those videos in my hand, knowing that all these people wanted to watch them.
Yeah. That was the Vancouver shows. And then the next shows in the set, was there a show between those 2 shows and the ones in London and Dublin that you recall?
I don't recall. I know that I'm pretty sure it was just the London and Dublin were middle of July. I think we got there on the 11th.
So
July.
These 4 talks are huge. These 4 talks are like probably the biggest, discussions that have happened this year.
The June 23rd show was the first time that Jordan Peterson and Sam Harris had ever met in person. They'd had previous conversations on podcasts, but I mean, this is the first time they're speaking together. And that's phenomenal. That was an incredible thing. And kudos to Travis for putting that together. That's an amazing accomplishment. But yes, these were monumental discussions. These were huge.
Could we go through some of the major problems with setting up the Dublin and London events?
Our biggest concern, when we'd previously gone to London, it was my first time off the continent. I've been down to the States and I've been all over Canada, but it was my first time out of the country. And when we arrived in customs, 2 or 3 of us on the crew, we walked up and we bold-faced lied to customs. We told them that we were there visiting and seeing a show. And when I say we, it was only one of us that said that, and I just kind of followed along. And I asked later, why are we lying to customs? That could go so horribly wrong. And I was told that Travis had instructed us to do that.
To just not tell the truth to customs.
Not tell the truth to customs. My understanding in talking with, when we got back, I talked to some stagehand buddies of mine that have toured around the world. And they said, don't ever do that. Don't lie to customs. At the very least, they could take you into a room for hours. They might send you right back, or you could be blocked from entering the country for lying to them.
Yeah.
So I spoke to my coworkers, my fellow team members on Pangburn, and I said, we need to go talk to an entertainment lawyer. So we arranged an appointment. We had a discussion with an entertainment lawyer, and he recommended that we have a copy of our written contract and a letter of introduction saying who we are, who we work for, what we're doing in the country, and how long we're going to be there. Mm-hmm. So we brought this to Travis's attention, and he said we didn't need it. Mm-hmm. So we raised this as a concern. A couple of days before we were getting ready to leave for the show, we needed written contracts, which we didn't have, and we needed letters of introduction.
Okay.
There were numerous other problems going on at the same time. There was a problem with obtaining liability insurance for the venues in Dublin and London. Most companies will have annual liability insurance. Most companies, like production companies. We did not have annual liability insurance.
Okay.
Production manager tasked me with finding insurance for the venues. So I take a look at the contract and I figured out what we needed, and I began making phone calls, and I'm finding out that nobody in Canada will cover overseas for liability insurance for entertainment. I looked to the States, and I looked when we went down to the US, who we used for insurance down there for 2 of the venues, and I found 2 of our certificates for insurance, and I tried calling them, and they wouldn't touch it. Mm-hmm. I'll double back to that in a sec. Remind me.
How long from the show is this?
This is within about 10 days.
Wait, 10 days? Is that? That's kind of cutting it kind of close.
Yeah, and there are a number of other issues in Dublin. Apparently, a company you have to register for the VAT. The tax.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
You have to get a registration number. And I was spending a lot of time trying to get that worked out with an amazing fellow over there that was helping me out trying to answer that. There are a lot of things going on. Plus, we had the whole ticketing problem.
Yeah, there's a lot of dust up on the internet over the ticketing.
That was quite the adventure. So I'm phoning all over Dublin and London now, and they're saying that they won't do insurance for a company from overseas. That you have to have an office on, say, London or Dublin soil to get insurance there. And that was about the time when Travis suggested that we lie to the insurance company and tell them to use the address. In fact, he gave me a random address to start. Just gave me a random. He said, "Here, use this address as our address for the office, for the Pangburn office in London."
So he's asking you to act like he's been acting and just say one thing that's not real and just present as though something's real. Basically fraud.
That's what encouraged me to pull out those certificates when we went to the States, and I took a closer look at them, wondering how did we do this, and I found an address, the address for the Pangburn office in the U.S., and I looked it up, and it turned out to be a parcel pickup location in Washington. When I asked him about that, actually when we did our list of concerns, that was one of the concerns, and he said that that was our mailing address in the States. I don't think that's how insurance works, but I think he was claiming that he had an office in the States, much like he told me to claim. He told me to tell them that we had an office in London. And I flat out said no. I said, I'm not. I said, I think that's fraud. I cannot with good conscience do that.
Yeah, absolutely. This brings up, back earlier you said that he was having everybody else sign off on things. That just seems like he's delegating also like the liability for his actions to everybody around him.
Does sound like that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I told him he had to figure out how to take care of that on his own. If he wanted, he said he could get insurance on a website for $400. I said, go for it. You know, if that works for you and the venue, have at it. While this was going on, I did manage to get a hold of an amazing company that managed to put the insurance in place. And it took a few days and some challenges for them as well. They had to call in some favors, but they made it happen for us and for a pretty hefty price as well. I don't remember what the exact number was for the premium, but it was in several thousands.
Do you know if they got paid?
Well, I'm pretty sure it did, because while we were sitting at the airport, leaving for Dublin, Travis actually emailed his credit card to the insurance provider without them even requesting it. They said it would be no problem. Once it was approved, they would ask for payment. But he said, just make it happen, and sent them the credit card. And they found that very unusual. It's not common for people to email pictures of their credit card.
Wait, his own personal credit card? Or the
that's how all the payments were done. As far as I know, anytime that I got paid, I'd submit an invoice and I got paid by e-transfer.
Yeah.
But as far as making payments to vendors or hotels or any of the venues, we used his credit card, and more often than not, it was maxed out. And our production manager spent an awful lot of time explaining to vendors and patrons why the card was declined, and having to backtrack and go to Travis and say, get it paid, pay it down. And we were never really aware of the money flow at all. We had no idea where the money was going or coming from. We just get invoices, hand them to him, make sure they got paid, or more often than not, she would pay them through a credit card online.
Okay. That seems like a odd way to run a business.
Not your standard operating procedure, no. Personal credit card to pay things.
Was that another one of the concerns?
That's on that's in the listing. There were a total of 19 concerns. I'd love to share them. Yeah. I'd love to share the list, but at this point, I don't really want to put that out there, because if there is a class action suit against him, this would probably suffice as evidence.
Okay.
Of the wrongdoing, because we did bring a lot of the issues that are happening yesterday, leading up to this, we brought to his attention back in July.
Okay.
And he made weak attempts at answering them.
What was his response to being confronted with these various concerns?
Very vague. When we asked, I think one, for example, would have been, how do you intend on dealing with chargebacks from the ticketing companies? And he said, I don't understand. What are chargebacks? It's like, well, You'd think as a promoter, he'd have some notion of what a chargeback is.
Okay.
Somebody's wants a refund on their ticket, then the credit card company does a chargeback.
Yeah.
And whether he just didn't understand the terminology or didn't understand the concept, or whether he was just
That
being
money
vague.
would leave his hands if that occurred.
That raises the bigger question. I think that he thought when he sold tickets that he was making money, even though he was running at a loss for a lot of shows. If he couldn't, I mean, if you're not selling enough seats, you're running a deficit. You're not. If you're not making a profit, you're not making money. Which is why I guess he thinks he doesn't need to return it to anybody. So that was his. I think he thinks he lost money. I think the money's gone, and we're talking like what, a couple $100,000, and it's gone. So he thinks he lost his money.
Okay. And it wasn't really his. He was just the steward of it.
That's my take on it. And again, legally I could be wrong, but I think if people pay for a thing and don't get the thing, it's really their money.
How's it going, everyone? Thank you so much for becoming a patron. This whole process is impossible without you guys. This is making the video creation of these events possible, and it's helping to keep our office running and helping to finish off building our studio here. So thank you all so much. I really appreciate. I know you all work so hard for your money, and you've chosen to come here and support us. So I really appreciate you guys.
Yeah. So did you guys get contracts before you left for Dublin? You guys, that was one of your demands or your concerns. Did you guys get a contract with him before you flew over?
Yeah. The night before we left, four of us, the ticketing manager, the director of audience services, the director of media, the executive director, and myself, we all spoke at length and put together a list of concerns. And then we emailed that to him saying, please respond in writing and answer all of them. And he did. It took him a little while. And he did answer them. We felt poorly, but the first of the conditions, of course, was that we have contracts and letters of introduction to go over. The second one was that there be insurance in place for the events. We put these concerns. The only real conditions were the first four. The rest were just concerns that we wanted answered at some point. And the most prominent one being the contracts. So yes, he did send us, he emailed us a contract that he typed up quickly and a letter, and both were so extremely weak. The contract said something about terms and conditions below, and there were none. In fact, I think he said that my function would be assisting the directors as needed. That was my contract. That was my job. But yeah, it's not a very good job description. Yeah. So we all discussed amongst ourselves, and we realized that we would have to put together our own contract. So we found a basic boilerplate of a contract, and we worked it over, and sticking with basically the same dollar figures, but now making sure that we were covered for a number of things.
Okay.
And we sent those off to him, and he said they were acceptable to sign them on his behalf.
Wait. He wanted to delegate to you the signing of a contract with him?
Yes, to just copy and paste his signature onto a contract with him.
Do you think that would hold up in court?
I understand that it's a perfectly legal practice to do as long as all parties are in agreement.
Yeah.
But if he ever said, I didn't authorize that, I mean, we'd have to pull out the email saying that he authorized it.
Yeah.
And I kind of slammed the brakes and went, no, he needs to sign this himself. Okay. This is a contract.
Okay.
So we took him to task. We said, great, we'll have them printed. We'll meet you at the airport in the morning, which now is only a few hours away. I think at that point I'd been up about 40 hours straight, and everybody was just exhausted. We'd been going all night on this just to make sure that everything, crossing T's and dotting I's. And he signed them at the airport, and everything was good. Actually, he told us, don't bother. I think this is in a previous email as well. Just leave the paperwork in your bag and only give it to customs when they ask for it. And that's not what you do. You hand all of your paperwork over to customs right away, give them everything, and you're good. If they have to ask for it, if you're digging around in your bag, that doesn't go over very well with them.
I can't tell if he's really naive or if there's something missing.
Yeah, that's the question. And ultimately, does he even know that he's doing wrong?
Yeah.
Like, that's been our question all along. Dublin and London, we do the events, we do the shows. They went off phenomenally, and large scale, really good size audiences, and everybody really seemed to enjoy it. Everything went off technically wonderful. And the day after the show, we're in our hotel rooms, and we all get an email at the same time, firing us, rescinding the contract for the event.
The contracts are like 4 days old, right?
Yeah. He rescinded them or retracted them because he felt he was forced to sign them under duress.
Under duress?
Yes.
Of not having your help? Or what does he mean by duress?
The list of demands that we put on him before we left caused him great stress, caused his family great stress. That we've forced him to sign the contracts.
It seems like you guys were the ones who were doing all the work. The talent was the one who was bringing all the crowds, and Travis doesn't really connect that he really owes you guys a lot. If nothing else, just basic respect.
I mean, I made the insurance happen. And I mean, maybe somebody that knew how to do insurance may have been more effective, but if I hadn't called that one person and put that insurance in place, there wouldn't have been a show in Dublin and London.
Yeah.
And my thank you for that wasn't a raise, wasn't a pat on the back, wasn't a bonus. My thank you for that was getting fired.
Was it a back and forth, or were you guys just cut off? Did you guys have an opportunity to speak with him and dialogue about this, or did he just cut you guys off?
It was an email, and it was, again, I'd like to release the email just because it's a fascinating read. It's I don't know if delusional is a good word for it, but there is nothing logical or reasonable about it. In fact, there's one line in the email that says, "A dim light from this precipice."
Sounds Shakespearean.
It sounds Shakespearean, and it goes on to say that we could beg for our jobs back at a lesser position.
Wait, what?
Or a lesser capacity. We were welcome to call him on July 20th, I believe Friday, July 20th, and we could pretty much beg for our jobs back at a lesser capacity. But that we weren't to do that if we were doing it for the love of the speakers. We were only to be doing it, we weren't to waste his time doing it for the love of the speakers. We were to do it for our love of his philosophy and himself.
Really?
Yes.
I hope there was company letterhead on this. This seems like an amazing document.
It's an amazing document.
I call this an immoral pleasure drift. When we drift into the immoral and we don't even realize we're there. There's no cognitive approach to making this decision. There's mass incoherence.
There's a Twitter post right around that time, or right after him sending you that he's on the top of a mountain meditating.
I wonder if that's the dim light. Maybe it was late in the evening. I don't know. Maybe that's where he sent it from. Zen moment. I don't know.
The condition was that you basically crawl back to him and beg for the jobs back for the love of him, not for the love of the work, the love of the audience, the love of the speakers, but the love for him. And then he would accept you back and chop off a couple adjectives from your titles.
Yeah, I'm not even certain that he would accept us back, because earlier in the letter he said, "You will never be forgiven as far as I can tell." And I thought that was, sorry, who better would know than him? We would never be forgiven. In fact, some of the words he said that we were callous and we were cowards for presenting with this list of concerns. It was all about the list of concerns. Okay. He was kind enough to let us work the 2 shows after having received the list of concerns. But once the shows were completed, he terminated our contracts, did not, we didn't get paid. Okay. We sent him invoices afterwards, and like everybody else, no reply. We never heard from him after that day.
Yeah. And I assume you didn't go back to him and ask for your job back.
I didn't. The stage manager / production manager / executive director didn't. We accepted our fate. In fact, we had a pretty good idea that we weren't going to be coming back even before we went to Dublin and London. Having done that list of concerns, we suspected we weren't going to be working with him again. Okay. And we took our personal belongings from the office before we left, just in case. Okay. And we weren't wrong. The 2 that remained continued on, and I believe one more person came in to assist. Okay. I think one more person was temporarily hired in. And I'm aware of who that person is, but I don't know what their role would have been.
Without the person that you began working for to work with Pangburn, without her, the rest of Pangburn Philosophy collapsed, or it just led to imminent collapse, leading up to what happened or didn't happen in New York.
Yeah, she was key. She's brilliant. I mean, she's an amazing stage manager, and that's why I sought her out for that one event that I was doing. And I don't think that these shows would have gone even as well as they did without her. I don't think anybody else could have done as remarkable job as she did. With the limited time, the limited budget, he restrained her pretty much at every turn. It's like she was severely limited, and most of her time, like I said, was backtracking, trying to explain to people why the credit card didn't go through. She did a huge amount of computer work, spreadsheets, and being in touch with the talent, making arrangements for dates and time. And that's why she asked me to come in to take some of that load off with some of the logistics. But I don't think these shows would have gone off if it wasn't for her. So yeah, once she was gone, I think that's probably a big part of why the shows didn't go well.
I mean, I guess the question is, and this is probably beyond your expertise, I don't know if you're a psychologist or a mind reader or anything, but do you think this is more about incompetence or is it about negligence? Is this somebody who was young who just found himself? Was Travis just somebody who found himself in the right place at the right time with not the right skills?
I think that's the question. I mean, it's either negligence or it's incompetence, or
malice, I guess, is the other thing.
I honestly don't think there was malicious intent. I don't think he intended this to go like this. Okay. I think being naive probably contributed to it. I think he was really outside of his element. I think he just got too big too fast. I think he tried to do too much without really having a clear understanding of what was needed from my perspective, like security, for example.
Yeah. Did you see him like accepting criticism, accepting and learning from his mistakes, like being met with problems and being corrected?
Absolutely not. In fact, the best example I can think of is when he did his infamous podcast 14 immediately after the June 23rd, 24th shows with Sam and Jordan. When he posted his review of the show without releasing the videos, when that became the primary comment all the way through, is release the videos. He gave his review of the show when nobody online had seen it. And when he was sitting in the office with one of the other employees, he's sitting in the office reading through the comments just after they posted the video.
Yeah.
The two of them were sitting in there laughing at the comments. And I thought, how can you be missing that these people are hating you right now?
When's the last time you saw Travis Pangburn?
I guess that was the 16th. I don't know. I was kind of tired. There's a lot going on. I headed down to the office randomly just to see if I could, if he was there. And if I could answer the question whether or not he was already on his way to New York, because we suspected he might be heading to New York anyway.
Okay, yeah.
And as I pulled around the back, I saw a budget rental van loaded with boxes, and the loading bay to the office open, and Travis loading the van. thought, he's packing up his office and running. Yeah. And then I talked to our director of audience services, and he said he was on his way down to drop off the phone. And I said, hey, I'd like to, stop by. And this is understanding that I have neither spoken nor seen Travis since July, 17th, 16th. So I hadn't seen him nor heard from him, no response to emails, no nothing. And I told our audience services guy that I'd love to, say hi to Travis and goodbye and, thanks for an amazing experience. He said he'd be there in about an hour. So about an hour into that, I just walked into the office, and I'd actually asked him, let Travis know that I'm coming.
Okay.
And I guess he'd forgotten to tell him. And I come walking into the office, and Travis looked up a little bit surprised, and we shook hands. And I thought about asking him about, the contracts and the invoice, and I thought, I'm not going to get a straight answer. So we just sat around and chatted for a little while about, dispensaries in Vancouver, which is a hot topic right now.
Yeah.
And I did ask Travis, so new chapter?
Yeah.
And he said, yep, I'm pivoting. Pivoting. He's pivoting. So I guess from one business model to the next, and I asked, that's your documentaries and writing a book? And he said, yep. Great. Are you going to call your book Pivoting? I would like the title to be A Dim Light from This Precipice. Perfect title for the book. And I hope he uses that. And I think I'd probably buy it. And I'm kind of hoping that I can, get in line for an autograph for that.
Did you sense that he was under any stress? I mean, he's under a lot of negative attention right now.
No stress at all. He was cool as a cucumber. He showed no remorse. There was no apology for what's happened. And for a guy that's packing up his dream into the back of a van.
No, his philosophy.
His philosophy right into the boxes. He said he's going to continue on from home, so I guess he's not going anywhere. He's not cutting and running, which is good. Well, and then they were testing the alarm system for the office complex, and it went off, and he said, "Oh, that's the police coming for me." It's like, what else have you done? Well, at least you'll be really easy to find in jail.
Huh.
And as best I can tell, he didn't think there were any hard feelings there. I had to go.
It's just so mysterious.
It was. I would say it's almost disconcerting. If you didn't know the guy and you ran into him, you wouldn't think he was going through anything at all. Mm-hmm. And considering what he's going through, I think that would be fairly emotionally devastating for a lot of people. And maybe somewhere in there that's there, but you certainly couldn't tell.
Even if I have to be the guy who says the thing that wasn't very well prepared and wishes I didn't say it, just to have an interesting conversation and go down that road, I'm cool with that, man. I'm cool with being the guy that said the dumbass thing on the Joe Rogan show.
I mean, that main comment there is like, dude, we don't want to listen to you. We want to listen to the speakers.
Yeah. And do you think that he was unable to see the feedback as something valuable? Like he was unable to see the audience as valuable. He's unable to see you guys as valuable, possibly unable to see that the talent was valuable, because it seems like he put himself before the talent in certain respects.
No, he would announce these shows like it was a wrestling match.
Please put your hands together for Brett Weinstein, Jordan Peterson, and Sam Harris.
And I mean, I'm sure everybody's noticed his style choices.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure he thought he was the show.
Do you find that that's kind of standard fare to some extent, maybe with more professionalism for somebody who is a promoter? In
wrestling, yes. In the concert world, or any of the theater shows that I've done, you can rarely tell who the promoter is. They're usually in an office out back, or when they do walk across the floor. And I know a number of the guys with Live Nation. When they come into the room, you don't know who they are. They're very subtle. They're very understated. Mm-hmm. They know who the talent is.
Oh, okay.
I don't think Travis understood that. Well, on one hand, he saw himself as an innovator, as if shows like this had never been done before.
Yeah.
But these guys have been doing shows like this for a long time.
Okay.
Christopher Hitchens, Lawrence Krauss, Richard Dawkins, they've been doing shows like this forever.
Okay.
And they've done amazing with them. So this isn't new. It isn't innovative. I love Sam Harris. I love Jordan Peterson. I love all the speakers.
Yeah.
I love doing these shows. I've done hundreds and hundreds of concerts, rock concerts and country. Don't get me going on that. I do love country. But this was amazing. We had these phenomenal people, these brilliant people on stage speaking, and we had live audiences, and the energy, the dynamic there between the audience and the speakers. My favorite part had to be when we were standing. I would arrange the book signing, and I'd be standing by the table, making sure that people were moving through. We have a limited amount of time, and still the people would ask a question, and sometimes the speaker would engage. And I feel so honored to have been a part of that, to be standing there listening to these one-on-one conversations where somebody would say, I'm a physics professor because of you, or I met my girlfriend because of you, and then the guy proposed to his fiance right there with Jordan Peterson and Sam Harris. It's like these people, it's like, what an honor.
I guess in a way, it would be easy to assume that you're the one who's responsible for that feeling if you were in Travis's shoes. I guess I can kind of sympathize with like getting taken up in, I'm the one who's providing this experience for everybody, and almost not understanding that you're just a conduit of that experience.
That's a really good way to say it, and I can sympathize with that as well. He had a vision, and he brought that vision to people, and that was a great thing. It's too bad he didn't have enough of a grasp of what he was doing, or trust the people that knew what they were doing.
Yeah, or practice in some shady dealings. We'll see as things come out. We'll see. Hopefully, people will get what they're owed.